Someone just manufactured a weapon and pointed it at themselves. That weapon is you. Here's what happened. They demoted you but kept you on payroll, stripped your authority while maintaining your access, took away everything that made your position meaningful while leaving you just functional enough to remember what you lost. Every morning you show up to a job that isn't really a job anymore. The title's technically there. The paycheck still arrives. The humiliation, fresh daily. They'll tell you this is a second chance, development, restructuring. The truth is simpler and far more dangerous. They just created their own assassin. 500 years ago, a Florentine diplomat named Niccolo Machiavelli watched princes across Italy make this exact mistake. Defeat enemies, then show mercy. Strip some power, inflict some humiliation, leave them alive and capable. He saw the pattern play out again and again. Pardoned enemies becoming assassins, spared rivals organizing rebellions, wounded nobles plotting revenge. Machiavelli wrote it down in The Prince the book, so dangerous the Catholic Church banned it, so essential that every ruler studied it in secret. One line captures the entire mechanism. Men ought either to be well treated or crushed, because they can avenge themselves of lighter injuries. Of more serious ones, they cannot. Treat someone fully well or destroy them completely. The middle ground, you've just manufactured your most lethal enemy. Look around your life right now. That demoted manager still showing up to meetings where decisions get made without them. That relationship dying slowly while neither person has courage to end it. That entire generation promised opportunities that keep evaporating, all sitting in the same zone, the half-destroyed zone, where you have memory but no justice, capability but no position, motivation without fear of consequences. Every empire that collapsed to people in this exact position. The French Revolution came from educated bourgeoisie, excluded from power. Russian Revolution from literate workers denied mobility. Corporate collapses from insiders everyone thought had accepted their diminished roles. Assassinations from the pardoned enemy's rulers stopped watching. The pattern never changes. Wound someone partially, and you create something far more dangerous than an open enemy. You create someone with clarity about how the game actually works, freedom from believing in fair rules, and burning motivation to prove they were never the diminished thing you tried to make them believe. If you're checking boxes right now, if you're recognizing yourself in this description, then you need to understand something. You're holding power you didn't have before they wounded you. Fuel wrapped in pain. Clarity purchased with humiliation. Two paths exist from here. Use it to transform, or let it consume you. Build something they can't ignore, or rot nursing grievances they don't remember inflicting. The choice determines everything. Let me show you something most people never see about power. When you hurt someone, two options keep you safe. Everything else. You're setting up your own assassination, not philosophy, mechanics. How human nature actually works when you strip away the comfortable lies about fairness. Option 1 is complete elevation. Bring them into your circle with real power. Make their success depend on yours. Create genuine investment, authentic gratitude. When they win, you win. You've transformed a potential enemy into an actual ally. Safe. Option 2 is complete destruction. Remove all capacity for revenge. Eliminate the threat so thoroughly they can't return. Brutal, yes, but also safe because there's no lingering threat. Option 3 is where almost everyone fails. The middle ground, the half measure. You hurt someone partially. Demote them, but keep them employed. Diminish authority, but maintain the relationship. Wound pride, but leave capability intact. The Machiavellian analysis of human nature says you just signed your own death warrant. Small wounds fester. Large wounds force adaptation. Someone who loses everything has to rebuild because survival demands it. But someone who loses half, they have luxury of nursing their grievance. Time to plan, resources to act. That matters for your personal development more than you think. Think about injury psychology. When you're completely destroyed, two choices exist: die or transform. Most choose transformation because human survival instinct is remarkably strong. They rebuild from zero, create new identity, move to new territory. The wound is so severe that healing requires becoming someone else entirely. Partial destruction. You remain yourself. Identity stays intact. Memory is crystal clear. You know exactly who you were before what was taken, who took it. Every morning you wake up, and the comparison is right there. What you had versus what you have now. Mental toughness develops, but not the stoic wisdom that comes from accepting what cannot be changed. Instead, you get relentless focus that comes from knowing exactly what you want back. The man with nothing to lose has infinite courage. The man with memory but no justice has infinite patience. Look at what you create with a half measure. Crystal clear memory of the injury. No ambiguity about who wronged them, how it happened, why it was unjust. The pain doesn't fade because they're still in contact with the source. Every meeting, every interaction, every reminder of their diminished status refreshes the wound, like reopening a cut before it has time to heal. Their capability remains intact. Skills that made them valuable didn't disappear. Relationships built over years didn't evaporate. Knowledge accumulated didn't get erased. You diminished their position, not their potential. They still know how to execute. They still have access to information. They still understand how systems work. Probably better now because they've seen both sides. Here's what's critical for understanding the lone wolf mentality that develops. Their entire incentive structure inverts. Normal people have something to protect. Reputations to maintain relationships, to preserve futures, to safeguard. Makes them cautious. Makes them calculate risk carefully. The half destroyed, already damaged. What will you threaten them with? Loss of respect they already lost. Position they've already been stripped of. The illusion that playing by rules works. Risk-reward calculation changes completely. They can afford bets you cannot. They can afford to burn bridges you need intact. They can afford to go to war because they're already living in the aftermath of one. They gain the gift of invisibility. You think they're neutralized, so you stop watching carefully. They're written off, dismissed, no longer perceived as threat. Your vigilance drops. You focus on people who still have power, people who still seem dangerous. Meanwhile, the half-destroyed are studying you while you've forgotten they exist. You've given them purpose, means, opportunity, and freedom from consequences. Created your own assassin and handed them keys to your house. Self-reliance often begins exactly here in this moment of partial destruction. When you realize the system won't support you, that playing by rules won't save you, that appealing to fairness won't work. You're forced into a choice: collapse or develop the lone wolf mentality necessary to succeed alone. Every fallen empire fell to the half-destroyed, not to the fully conquered who had no choice but to accept their fate, not to the fully integrated who'd become part of the power structure, but to those caught in between, wounded but not broken, humiliated but not eliminated. Watch this play out across history, across cultures, across every level of human organization. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Germany, after World War I. The Treaty of Versailles might be the most perfect example of the half measure in modern history. Allied powers crushed Germany economically, but didn't occupy long term. Limited the military, but didn't eliminate industrial capacity or organizational capability. Wounded national pride through war guilt clause, but left the population intact, educated, capable. An entire nation remembering former status as great power. Educated population with technical skills and organizational ability. Economy in ruins, but infrastructure still standing. Most dangerous of all, collective memory of humiliation with no path to restore dignity through legitimate means. The treaty wasn't harsh enough to destroy Germany's ability to rebuild, but harsh enough to ensure rebuilding would be motivated by revenge rather than reconciliation. Machiavellian analysis is straightforward. Either integrate Germany as equal partner in new European order, giving them stake in peace, or occupy and restructure so completely that old identity dissolves. The middle ground created perfect conditions for weaponizing collective resentment into catastrophic war. Not defending what happened next, just understanding cause and effect in human nature. Wound people, but leave them capable. You're not creating peace, you're creating a pressure cooker. Look at modern corporate restructuring. Company decides to reorganize, cut costs, shift strategy, respond to market changes. They demote middle managers who've been there for years, but don't terminate them. Strip away authority but maintain salaries. Create new organizational charts where these people report to younger employees they used to supervise. These half-destroyed managers have access to everything. Know where bodies are buried. Understand systems. Have relationships throughout organization. Now they have motivation to see new structure fail because its success validates their demotion. Information leaks to competitors. Projects mysteriously encounter obstacles. Toxic culture spreads through whisper networks. Organization becomes less efficient despite restructuring. Why internal enemies with capability and motive? The Machiavellian approach would be different. Either find way to genuinely elevate these managers in new structure, giving them meaningful roles where they can succeed and therefore want organization to succeed, or provide generous severance and help them transition to success elsewhere. Both options cost more short-term, but less than maintaining saboteurs on payroll. Personal relationships follow the same pattern, though most people don't recognize it until too late. The worst breakups aren't the explosive ones. Cheating, dramatic betrayal. Those hurt, but they're clean. You know it's over. You can grieve and move forward. The truly dangerous breakups are slow demotions. One person withdraws emotional support, but maintains connection. Let's still be friends really means, I want you available for my benefit, but I'm not investing in you anymore. Someone keeps you in their orbit while exploring other options. You see them achieving happiness with new partners while you're stuck in limbo. Half-destroyed romantic partner. No closure to move on. No connection to heal in place. Suspended in exactly the state that maximizes resentment and obsession. Modern manifestations include stalking harassment campaigns, revenge tactics, not from strangers. From the half-destroyed, from people kept in injury zone too long. Someone completely cut off can eventually redirect energy toward new relationships. Someone kept in partial connection cannot move forward and cannot heal where they are. Life advice isn't complicated here. Be generous or be gone. Middle ground is where you plant seeds of your own destruction. Ending relationship. End it cleanly. Maintaining relationship. Maintain it genuinely. Worst thing you can do is keep someone emotionally half alive. Expand this lens to society itself. Look at who's being created right now through systemic half measures. Entire generation educated, but economically excluded. Told they're valuable, but given no path to power. Able to see the game, but not allowed to play. Massive student debt with no corresponding opportunity. Old enough to understand how system works, young enough to have energy to do something about it. Historically, the most dangerous combination. French Revolution wasn't led by completely downtrodden peasants, led by educated bourgeoisie, excluded from political power despite their wealth and capability. Russian Revolution wasn't organized by illiterate serfs, organized by literate workers and radicalized intellectuals who could see injustice and articulate alternatives. Every populist movement, every revolution, every massive social upheaval follows same pattern. Partially supported population with education and grievance is formula for transformation or explosion. Not destroyed enough to be powerless, not supported enough to be satisfied, educated enough to organize. Your company does this when they promote culture and values, but not salaries. Your government does this when they promise opportunity, but load debt. Your institutions do this when they demand credentials, but provide no path to positions that justify investment. They're creating you. The half-destroyed. Then they wonder why everyone's so angry, why trust in institutions keeps collapsing, why people are increasingly willing to burn down systems rather than work within them. Pattern stays the same. Half measures don't create stability. They create time bombs. Seeing these patterns everywhere, now this is clicking into place. There's more. Hit subscribe because what comes next goes deeper into recognizing if you're in the danger zone and what to do about it. So why does this keep happening? If half measures are so dangerous, if the pattern is obvious throughout history, why do people in power keep creating these conditions? The answer reveals something uncomfortable about human nature and weakness that passes itself off as virtue. They think they're being kind, actually being cowards. Leaders create half measures for three interconnected reasons. Understanding these will change how you see every power dynamic in your life. First is fear of definitiveness. Firing someone feels cruel, so they demote instead. Ending relationship feels harsh, so they let it fade into ambiguous half-connection. Taking clear stand feels extreme, so they hedge and moderate and try to split the difference. Understanding Machiavelli the Prince becomes critical for personal development here. The desire to appear merciful actually creates conditions for greater cruelty later. Demotion feels less harsh than termination in the moment, but creates ongoing humiliation. Slow fade feels gentler than breakup conversation, but creates months of confusion and false hope. Moderate position feels more reasonable than strong stance, but satisfies no one and alienates everyone. True mercy, the Machiavellian approach would argue, is decisiveness. Quick execution is more merciful than slow poisoning. Cruelties should be committed all at once, so their sharpness is not felt for long, while benefits should be granted gradually so they can be fully appreciated. Think practically. Have to fire someone. Do it cleanly, generously, quickly. Give them resources to transition successfully. Don't drag it out with performance improvement plans that everyone knows are just documentation for termination. Don't demote them first as warning. Make the decision and help them land on their feet somewhere else. That's actual mercy, even if it doesn't feel gentle in moment. Second is delusion of control. Leaders convince themselves that keeping wounded person close means they can monitor them, manage them, prevent them from becoming dangerous. I'll keep them where I can watch them. They'll appreciate that I didn't destroy them completely. They'll eventually accept their new role. Fantasy. What you actually did is give motivated enemy access to your operations, your information, your vulnerabilities. They're not grateful for half measure. They're planning how to use their remaining capability. Real control comes from clear positions. Either someone is fully integrated as ally with genuine power, or they're fully separated with no access. Middle ground doesn't give you control, gives them opportunity. Third is moral self-flattery. Perhaps most insidious reason because it wraps cowardice in language of virtue. I'm not a monster. I gave them a chance. I'm being reasonable and measured. Look at what you're actually doing, inflicting ongoing humiliation while telling yourself you're being kind, maintaining someone in diminished state while congratulating yourself on not destroying them completely, creating situation where they suffer daily while you feel good about your own mercy. Moral narcissism disguised as compassion. Real compassion would be decisive. Real strength would be clear. What you're doing is protecting your self-image while damaging another person more thoroughly than clean break would have. Half measures aren't mercy. Moral cowardice dressed as compassion. Here's where it gets darker. What if this isn't just weakness? What if system actually needs half-destroyed people to function? Consider how power structures use the partially damaged. They're controllable initially because they're still dependent enough to manipulate. Need remaining salary, remaining connection, remaining hope that things might improve. Not desperate enough to be completely unpredictable. Perfect zone of exploitation where they'll accept treatment they wouldn't accept if they had nothing to lose. They also serve as warnings to others. Look what happens when you challenge structure. Not destroyed completely, which might create martyrs that inspire others. Not supported, which might encourage similar challenges. Just visibly diminished enough that everyone else sees and learns lesson. Stay in line, or this could be you. They absorb blame. When system fails, when outcomes don't match promises, when people are frustrated and angry, point to the half-destroyed. They're bitter, they're angry, they're the problem. Not the structure that created them, not the decisions that put them in that position. Just them personally being negative and holding grudges. Princes and power structures overestimate their control. Half-destroyed appear manageable for years, sometimes decades. Seem like solved problem, neutralized threat. Until suddenly, they're not. Every revolution was preceded by decades of managed discontent. Aristocracy thought they had bourgeoisie under control right up until guillotines came out. Every assassination came from controlled opposition that people stopped watching. Every corporate collapse included insider sabotage from people everyone thought had accepted their diminished roles. Half-destroyed seem manageable until the moment they're not. By then it's too late. Gamble that power makes. Gamble they lose more often than they remember. For your path of self-mastery, understanding this mechanism is critical. Recognize when you're being kept in zone deliberately. When your partial support isn't mercy, but management. When you're being positioned as warning to others while being told you're valued. Mental toughness required. Here isn't about enduring bad treatment. About seeing clearly what's being done and why then making strategic decisions based on that clarity rather than comfortable lies you're being told. Stop what you're doing. What I'm about to ask requires complete honesty, and most people will lie to themselves about the answer. Are you the half-destroyed? Here's the checklist. Actually, go through this. Been told repeatedly that you're valuable, that you have potential, that your contributions matter, but never actually been given real power. Have enough to survive, but not enough to thrive. Trapped in zone, where you can't fall, but can't rise. Been developed through feedback and training, but never actually promoted. Included in meetings, but not in actual decisions. Future promise to you that keeps receding like mirage, always just out of reach. Feel in your bones that you've earned more than you've received. Educated beyond your opportunities with credentials that should have opened doors that remain closed. Remember exactly who passed you over, why they did it, when it happened, what justification they gave. Checking multiple boxes. Let me tell you what this means. You're in danger zone. Not because you're weak or because you failed, but because you're wounded but not broken. That makes you either future revolutionary or future cautionary tale. Direction you go from here defines everything. Being half-destroyed isn't life sentence, fork in road. You have exactly one choice that matters. Path 1 is rot in place. Stay where you are, nursing grievance. Wait for justice that won't come from people who wronged you. Become bitter resentful, focused on what was taken rather than what can be built. Prove them right about you by becoming exactly the diminished version they imagined. Path of slave who accepts his chains. Not because you're literally enslaved, but because you've accepted mental prison where your energy goes into resenting past rather than building future. Path most people take, because it's psychologically easier, requires no risk, no change, no admission that you need to do something radically different. Stay comfortable in your resentment, telling yourself that things should be different, that you were wronged, that someone needs to fix this. All of that might be true. You probably were wronged. Things probably should be different. But waiting for people who put you here to lift you out is fantasy. They're not coming. They don't feel guilty. They've already moved on to other concerns. Your suffering doesn't keep them awake at night. Path 2 requires something harder. Requires transforming your understanding of what just happened to you. Worst thing they did wasn't hurting you. Was freeing you from belief that playing by their rules would work. Lone wolf mentality becomes not just useful, but necessary. Succeed alone becomes not preference, but requirement. Because now you understand at cellular level that system won't save you, that fairness won't protect you, that being good at your job won't automatically result in recognition and reward. You've been given brutal education in how power actually works versus how it claims to work. That education is painful, but it's also priceless. Most people go through entire lives never truly understanding that game has different rules than ones they were taught. You now know. Can't unknow it. Question is what you build with that knowledge. Let me tell you what you're capable of now that you weren't capable of before. Advantages that people who've never been wounded don't possess. First is moral freedom. No longer bound by their rule book because they broke social contract first. When system promises that merit will be rewarded, that loyalty will be returned, that playing by rules will result in fair outcomes, and then breaks those promises, you're released from obligation to continue following rules that only apply to you. Doesn't mean become unethical. Means recognizing that you owe nothing to people and structures that demonstrated they owe nothing to you. Your loyalty is now earned, not assumed. Your cooperation is now transactional, not automatic. Second is strategic invisibility. They think you're neutralized, that you've accepted your place, that you're no longer factor in their calculations. Stopped watching you carefully. Incredibly valuable, because it means you can move, learn, build, and prepare without scrutiny. People who are obviously climbing get monitored, questioned, potentially sabotaged. People who seem to have accepted their lot get ignored. Use this. While they're not paying attention, develop skills they don't know about. Build networks they don't see. Create options they're not tracking. Third is crystallized purpose. No longer have confusion about what you want. Not trying to figure out your passion or find your calling. Know exactly what you're building toward. Success becomes best revenge, and every step forward is justice you're creating for yourself. Clarity is powerful because most people struggle with motivation that comes from abstract goals. You have something concrete. Know what being diminished feels like, and you never want to feel it again. Know what it's like to be dependent on people who don't value you, and you're building independence so that never happens again. Fourth is immunity to their weapons. Think about what they can threaten you with now. Loss of approval, already gone. Loss of position, already lost. Loss of illusion. That system is fair best gift they gave you, because now you see clearly. When you have nothing left to lose, You become extraordinarily difficult to manipulate. Fear only works when someone has leverage over things you want to protect. You've already lost those things, so what exactly are they going to threaten you with hidden power of half-destroyed who choose path 2? You've been pushed into corner, but corners are where people discover what they're actually made of. Monk mode mentality that's necessary for rebuilding comes naturally now because you understand viscerally that no one is coming to save you. Self-reliance isn't aspiration anymore. Survival. Mental toughness isn't something you're trying to develop through discipline, something you're forging in fire of necessity. Personal development stops being about optimization and starts being about transformation, not trying to become a slightly better version of who you were, becoming something entirely different. Understanding this through Machiavellian lens means recognizing that fortune tests people to see what they're capable of. Comfortable never discover their full capacity. Wounded either break or become exponentially more dangerous than they were before injury. No middle ground in how you respond to being half-destroyed. Which path will you take because you're choosing right now, even if you think you're not making choice? Staying in place is choice. Waiting for things to change is choice. Hoping someone will finally recognize your worth is choice. All choices to take. Path 1. To rot where you are. Path 2 requires action, and it requires it soon, before wound becomes your identity, before resentment becomes your personality, before you forget that you're capable of more than surviving in diminished state. Theory becomes practice now. Understanding becomes action. You've recognized your position. You've chosen path 2. Now, what strategic response in phases, because this isn't something you can rush. Transformation takes time, but it follows logical sequence if you understand what you're building. Phase 1 is recognition, and it starts immediately. Acknowledge your position without shame. You're not destroyed. You're educated about how power actually works. They revealed game to you, and that's valuable information, even though receiving it was painful. Shame is enemy here, because shame keeps you paralyzed. Makes you hide what happened, makes you pretend you're fine, makes you stay in situation that's destroying you, because admitting you need to leave feels like admitting defeat. No shame in being wounded by people who have power over you. Only shame in staying wounded when you have option to heal. Recognition means looking clearly at your situation and saying, yes, this is where I am. This is what happened, and I'm going to do something about it. Phase 2 is extraction, typically 0 to 6 months. Get out of injury zone. Might mean leaving physically, changing jobs, ending relationships, moving to different city. Definitely means leaving mentally, which is harder because you can't just pack up your thoughts and go. No healing happens in place of wounding. Cannot rebuild while you're still being damaged. Cannot develop self-mastery while you're in an environment that actively undermines you. Machiavellian principle is simple. Change your fortune by changing your position. Most people fail here because extraction requires accepting short-term pain for long-term gain. Might take pay cut to leave toxic job. Might lose friends when you end relationship that's keeping you in limbo. Might have to admit to family that thing you promised would work out didn't work out. Here's what you're trading. Comfortable misery for uncertain possibility. Known pain for unknown potential. Terrifying, because at least you know how to survive where you are. Don't know if you'll survive somewhere else. Stoic wisdom that applies here is understanding that you're already not surviving. You're existing, but you're not thriving. You're breathing, but you're not living. Extraction might be painful, but you're already in pain. At least make it pain with purpose. Phase 3 is reconstruction, typically 6 to 24 months. build completely independent power base. New skills, new networks, new identity. Not as reaction to them, but as investment in you. Monk mode becomes essential. Need period of intense focus where you're not dating, not partying, not doing anything that doesn't contribute to rebuilding. Investing every spare dollar into skills or resources. Investing every spare hour into learning or building. Why this works is fundamental to understanding self-mastery. You're now playing different game entirely. They're still playing game where value comes from position within structure. You're playing game where value comes from capability you own outright. They need system to give them power. You're building power that exists independent of any system. Sigma male mindset isn't about being antisocial or rejecting all human connection. About building value that doesn't depend on anyone's permission or approval. Creating options so you're never again in position where someone else's decision determines your survival. During Reconstruction, you're going to have moments where you question if this is worth it. Going to see people from your old life advancing within system while you're grinding in obscurity. Going to wonder if you made a mistake by leaving. Mental toughness separates those who transform from those who regress. Remember what you learned. Advancement you're seeing in others is contingent on systems' continued approval. Your advancement is building foundation that belongs to you. They're renting power, you're buying it. Phase 4 is Ascendance, typically 24 months and beyond. Your success becomes your revenge. Don't attack them, you eclipse them. They become irrelevant to your story. Most Machiavellian move isn't destruction, making them realize you no longer think of them at all. When they see you succeeding at level they never imagined you capable of, when they see you building things they don't have access to, when they realize you've moved so far beyond the world where they have power that they can't even reach you to offer apology or attempt reconciliation. That's when you've truly won. Not about revenge in petty sense. About proving to yourself that you were never the diminished version they tried to make you believe you were. Demonstrating that their evaluation was wrong, that their decision to wound you revealed their weakness, not yours. Best revenge isn't destruction. Becoming so successful, they have to publicly praise you while privately seething. That's when you know you've won. Understand something crucial, though. Goal isn't to stay angry forever. Goal isn't to spend your life motivated by spite. Goal is to use energy from your wound to escape orbit of system that wounded you, and then to build something so far beyond that system that it becomes irrelevant. Eventually, and this might take years, you reach point where you genuinely don't care anymore. Not because you've forgiven them in some magnanimous gesture, but because they've become so small in your rear-view mirror that thinking about them feels like waste of time. That's true freedom. Not having to forgive them, not having to forget what they did, just building life so full and rich and powerful that they don't occupy any space in it anymore. Broader application, because this isn't just about you and your boss, or you and your ex, or you and whoever wounded you. How power works everywhere. Once you understand it, you see it in every interaction. You can now identify which companies create half-destroyed employees. Avoid them. They reveal themselves through high turnover, through developing lots of people, but promoting few, through culture of feedback, without support, through praising potential, while denying opportunity. You can identify which leaders are building future enemies. Don't be them. If you ever have power over others, remember what you learned. Elevate generously or separate cleanly. Never create half-destroyed people because you're too cowardly to make real decision. You can identify which relationships are keeping you in injury zone. Exit them. If someone in your life is withdrawing support but maintaining connection, if they're getting benefits of your presence without contributing to your growth, if they're keeping you as backup option while they explore better opportunities, leave. You know now what that pattern creates. You can identify which social structures are manufacturing revolutionaries. History doesn't repeat exactly, but patterns do. When you see entire generations being told they're valuable while being systematically excluded from power, when you see people accumulating credentials without corresponding access to positions those credentials supposedly grant, when you see education without opportunity, you're watching time bombs being manufactured. Machiavellian lens makes all of this visible. Every interaction becomes clear as integration play, where someone is making you genuine ally, elimination play, where someone is removing you as factor or fatal error, where someone is creating you as half-destroyed enemy. Your new power is that you can see game. Makes you more dangerous than those who don't know they're playing. Not dangerous in violent sense, but dangerous in sense that you cannot be manipulated the same way anymore. Cannot be controlled through false promises. Cannot be managed through partial support. Know what those patterns mean and where they lead. Life advice that most people never get, because most people never end up in position where they're forced to see clearly. Stay comfortable enough that they never have to question fundamental assumptions about how world works. Play by rules, because rules seem to be working well enough. You don't have that luxury anymore. You've seen behind curtain. Know that game has different rules than ones you were taught. And that knowledge, painful as it was to acquire, gives you advantage that comfortable people don't have. Let me bring this full circle and make sure you understand what we've actually covered, because this isn't just information. Transformation if you let it be. What we've learned through exploring Machiavelli the Prince and applying it to modern life. Half measures create maximum danger, being done to entire populations right now. You might be half destroyed yourself. If this gives you power, if you understand it. Two paths forward depending on your position. If you have power over others, here's your path. Be generous or be gone. Never torture people with middle ground. Not mercy manufacturing your own assassin. When you have to make difficult decisions about people, make them cleanly. If someone isn't working out, help them transition to success elsewhere, rather than keeping them in diminished role. Ending relationship. End it clearly, rather than letting it die slowly. Reorganizing, team promote people genuinely, or separate from them generously, but don't create situations where they're visibly reduced while still present. Not soft advice about being nice. Hard-edged practical wisdom about not creating enemies unnecessarily. Every person you wound partially becomes potential threat. Some will choose path 1 and rot in place, which hurts them more than you. But some will choose path 2 and become exponentially more dangerous than they were before you wounded them. Why risk it? Why create potential enemies when you could create allies or neutrals instead? Machiavellian approach isn't cruelty. Clarity about consequences. If you are half destroyed, here's your path. Extract yourself and rebuild beyond their reach. Never linger in injury zone. Every day you spend there is day you're being damaged further. Day your wound is being refreshed. Day you're learning to think of yourself as diminished version of what you actually are. Get out. Not someday. Not when you've saved enough money. Not when timing is perfect. Now, with whatever resources you have, with whatever plan you can cobble together, get out of situation that's destroying you. Then rebuild with intensity that people who've never been wounded cannot match. Use monk mode to develop skills. Use self-reliance to build capability. Use mental toughness to push through moments when you want to quit. Use stoic wisdom to accept that some things take time and cannot be rushed. Build something they can't ignore. Not because you need their approval, but because you need to prove to yourself that you were never the limited thing they tried to make you believe you were. The injury that is to be done to man ought to be of such kind that one does not stand in fear of revenge. Direct quote from Machiavelli, warning that echoes through 500 years to reach you right now. Translation for modern world works both ways. In power, treat people fully well or fully remove them. Half destroyed, extract yourself and rebuild beyond their reach. Never linger in injury zone, whether you're creating it or experiencing it. Ultimate recognition. Most dangerous people aren't fully destroyed because they've been eliminated. Most dangerous people aren't fully supported because they're your allies. Most dangerous people are those with memory capability and nothing left to lose. Creating these people. You're building your own gallows. Every person you demote, but don't terminate. Every person you wound, but don't finish. Every person you keep in diminished state while telling them they're valued. Manufacturing weapons pointed at yourself. If you are these people, you've been given gift wrapped in pain. Gift is clarity about how power actually works. Gift is freedom from believing that system will save you. Gift is motivation that comes from understanding exactly what you're building away from. Question is, what will you do with it? Rot in place nursing grievance and proving them right about you. Or use it as fuel to build something so far beyond their world that they become irrelevant. This is motivational video, in sense that I'm showing you what's possible, but not motivational, in sense of empty cheerleading. Not telling you it will be easy. Not telling you universe will reward your effort. Not telling you just believe in yourself and everything will work out. Telling you that you've been given brutal education in how world actually works and that education has value if you use it. Telling you that being half destroyed isn't death sentence, it's fork in road. Telling you that path of self-mastery often begins in moments of deepest wounding. Not because wounding is necessary, but because it forces clarity that comfort never provides. You can't unhear this now. Can't unsee these patterns. Can't go back to believing comfortable lies about fairness and merit and systems rewarding good people. In every relationship, you'll see who's being half destroyed. In every power structure, you'll see who they're manufacturing as future enemies. In every organization, you'll see time bombs being created through well-intentioned half measures. And in yourself, you'll see which zone you're in. Knowledge is weapon. In hands of weak, it ferments into paranoia and bitterness. In hands of strong, it becomes power that bends world. Strong enough to carry it walk forward. Ready to use what happened to you as fuel rather than poison begin. Understand that being half destroyed is temporary state, not permanent identity. Transform. But if you're going to rot in place, if you're going to nurse grievance instead of building future, if you're going to wait for justice from people who wounded you, then stop watching now. Close this. Go back to comfort of believing someone will save you. For those still here, understand this. Half destroyed are only dangerous when they don't know what's been done to them. When they don't understand that they're in specific type of trap. When they don't realize that their position gives them advantages if they know how to use them. Now you know. Understand mechanics of injury. See pattern across history. Recognize when you're being kept in zone deliberately. No difference between genuine support and management disguised as mercy. Question isn't whether you're dangerous anymore. You are by virtue of understanding what you understand. Question is, to whom are you dangerous? Dangerous to people who wounded you, spending energy on revenge that keeps you chained to past, or dangerous to comfortable assumptions about what's possible, to limitations others tried to impose to systems that tried to keep you in place. Dangerous to yourself, letting bitterness consume potential, or dangerous to mediocrity, to accepting less than you're capable of, to playing by rules that were designed to keep you controlled. Machiavellian wisdom here isn't about becoming cruel or manipulative, about seeing clearly and acting decisively, understanding that human nature responds to incentives more than ideals to demonstrated value, more than proclaimed worth to actual power, more than righteous anger. You've been wounded. That happened. Cannot change it. But you can change what you build from rubble. Can change trajectory of next 5 years. Can change who has power over your life. Personal development meets life advice, meets harsh reality of how world actually works. Systems don't change themselves. People don't voluntarily give up power. Fairness doesn't enforce itself. But individuals who understand how systems work, who build independent capability, who develop self-mastery through necessity rather than choice, who embrace lone wolf mentality not as rejection of all connection, but as foundation of self-reliance. Those individuals change their own trajectories regardless of what systems want, making you see clearly, making you understand patterns, making you recognize your position, and making you choose whether you'll use that understanding to transform or to rot. Every person watching this is in different situation. Some of you have power and are creating half-destroyed people without realizing it. Some of you are half-destroyed and didn't have language for what was happening until now. Some of you are watching this happen to others and finally understand dynamics you've witnessed. But you all now share same knowledge. You all see game, and you can never fully unsee it. Both burden and gift. Burden because ignorance was comfortable. Gift because sight is power. What you do with it determines everything. Use it to become bitter to see enemies everywhere, to retreat from all connection, because connection carries risk. Or use it to become strategic, to build genuine alliances, while protecting yourself from exploitation to succeed alone when necessary, while knowing when collaboration serves you. Answer reveals who you actually are, not who you pretend to be, or who you wish you were. Your choice in next weeks and months will show whether you have mental toughness to transform, or whether you'll join millions who stay wounded, because staying wounded is easier than healing. Machiavelli wrote his observations 500 years ago because human nature doesn't change. Power operates by same principles across centuries. What worked in Renaissance Italy works in modern corporate America, in personal relationships, in social structures. Powerful studied these truths while condemning them publicly because they didn't want you to understand. They wanted you to keep believing that playing by rules they set would result in rewards they promised. But you know better now. Seen what happens to people who play by those rules. Seen what happens when system partially supports you while fully using you. Experienced or witnessed what half measures create. I'll end where we began with Machiavelli's warning that started all of this. Men ought either to be well treated or crushed, because they can avenge themselves of lighter injuries of more serious ones they cannot. If you are the one with power, hear warning. Stop creating half-destroyed people. Make clean decisions. Be generous or be gone. Understand that partial measures create maximum danger, and that every person you wound partially becomes weapon that might turn on you. If you are half-destroyed, hear promise. You are not finished. You are not the diminished thing they tried to make you. You have been given clarity, capability, and choice. What you build from here is entirely up to you, and it can be extraordinary if you're willing to do work. Not end of story. Beginning of yours. Question we started with was, why zero support creates most dangerous people? Now you understand answer. Because they have memory without justice capability, without position and motivation, without fear of consequences. Because they've been pushed past point where normal incentives work and normal threats matter. And if you are one of them, if you recognize yourself in this description, then understand that you're holding power you didn't have before you were wounded. Holding clarity that comfortable people never develop. Holding motivation that abstract goals never create. Use it. Build something they didn't think you could. Become someone they didn't imagine you'd be. Succeed not despite what happened to you, but because you understood what it gave you. That's how you win. Not by revenge, not by matching their cruelty, but by becoming so successful that what they did to you becomes footnote in much larger story. And when you get there, when you've built life beyond their reach and power beyond their comprehension, you'll look back and realize that being half destroyed was best thing that ever happened to you. Not because wounding is good, but because it forced you to discover what you were actually capable of. That's transformation. That's self-mastery. That's understanding human nature deeply enough to turn greatest wound into greatest fuel. Now go build your world.